Hi, David here from Guitaria Music Tuition and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to look at the common guitar technique string bends. Okay, so you will probably come across this guitar technique quite often in songs. In guitar tab you'll usually see an arrow after the number kind of pointing upwards. So for example you might see a number 5 and then an arrow pointing up. Or sometimes you might see BU above the guitar tab, which means bend up. Sometimes BD, which means bend down. And then sometimes you might see an arrow coming back down as well. So that means you have to bring the string back down once you've bent it up. Another thing you might see on guitar tab is a note or number in a bracket. So for example, if you see a number 5, and then an arrow, and then next to it a number 7 in a bracket, that means you want to bend the number 5 to sound like the note on fret 7. So you wouldn't pick the note in the bracket, you just bend the string up so it sounds like that higher note. So that could be 1 fret higher, it could be 2 frets higher, sometimes 3 frets higher, and that's the note you're aiming for. And as I say, if it's in a bracket you don't re-pick it. Unless it says RP above, that means re-pick. Then you would re-pick that note while you've bent the string in the air. Okay, so let's get into it then. So string bends are different to vibrato. Vibrato is where you just kind of waver the sound and you don't actually change the pitch that much. A bit like that. So string bends are a little bit more aggressive. You actually bend the string up or down to change the pitch of the note. So string bending is commonly done on the highest 3 strings on the guitar. You can bend any of the strings on the guitar, but most commonly it is on the highest 3. So what we're going to do in this example is I'm going to show you how to bend the string on the B string. So I want to put a finger here on the 10th fret on the B string. Okay, so you can use any finger to bend a guitar string, but quite commonly it's the 3rd or the 4th finger that typically bends the strings. So you can use the 2nd or 1st finger, it's just maybe not as common. When you play a note for a string bend, you keep the fingers behind the finger you're playing the note with down behind it. So for example, if I want to bend a string or a note with my 4th finger, I'll have my 3rd, 2nd and 1st finger all on the string behind it, not off like that. So the reason for that is these fingers are going to support this 4th finger when bending up the string. If I was to use my 3rd finger for a string bend, then I'll just use the 2nd and the 1st finger behind it to help support it. If I was just using my 2nd, then I'll just use my 1st finger behind to help push the string up. So another tip is to have the thumb over the neck slightly. Doesn't matter if it's touching the thickest string slightly. If anything, that's a good thing because it will mute the string and it will stop any feedback. So this will help angle the fingers and help push the string up. Another tip is you do want the fingers to be angled, as just mentioned. If your fingers are straight, it does put a lot of strain on the joints in your fingers. So you do want your fingers to be a little bit tilted or slanted, so your thumb hooked over, and this will help push up the string. So here's some examples of string bends. So what I'm going to do is play this note here on the 10th fret on the B string. I'm going to use my 3rd finger. I'm going to pick the string and I'm going to bend it up. And when you string bend, you don't just randomly bend the string and hope for the best. You actually aim for a higher note. So if I'm on 10, then I'll bend the string so it will either sound like 11, 12 or 13. It's quite rare you'd bend it any higher than that. It's usually just the fret above, 2 frets above or 3 frets above. 2 frets above is known as a full bend, and then just 1 fret above is known as a half bend. Okay, so let's get into bending a string on the guitar then. So for this example, I'm going to start on the 10th fret on the B string, and I'm going to use my 3rd finger. I'm going to support it with the 2nd and the 1st finger. So when you bend the string, you are stretching the string so it raises the pitch, just to sound like the notes 1, 2 or 3 frets above. You don't actually have to play the notes 1, 2 or 3 frets above. just bend the string so it sounds like those higher frets. If we go back to our example on the 10th fret, on the B string, I'm going to use my third finger, support it with the second and the first, and what I'm going to do is bend the string so it hopefully sounds like the note on the 11th fret. So what I'm going to do is play that note on the 11th fret first to listen to the sound of the note. Might even play it a couple of times to really get the sound in my mind. Then I'm going to go back to the 10th fret and bend it up slightly. So it matches that sound on the 11th fret. Like that. So now what I'm going to do is try and bend it a bit higher so it sounds like the note on the 12th fret. So I want to play the note on the 12th fret. Like that. String bending can be quite tricky at first, and you can either underbend or overbend. So if you underbend, you're not bending the string high enough, so it doesn't quite reach the note you're aiming for. If you overbend, that means you've bent the string too high, so it goes past the note you're aiming for. So some examples of that. Let's say I'm aiming for the 12th fret again, and I'll bend it up. So that's not quite there, that's an underbend, so I'd need to go a bit higher. Let's play the 12 again to hear that. So that's about right there. If I was to overbend, so that would be too high for that note that I'm aiming for. So that's where you might see people in the audience that squint and they close their eyes, it hurts their ears. So when you're practicing the string bends, make sure to not underbend or overbend. It does take some practice. So just start off by picking a note. It doesn't have to be the 10th fret. You could pick the 12th fret, the 13th fret, the 7th fret. Doesn't really matter, but make sure you've got a target note in mind. So for example, if you want to bend the 7th fret, you'd want to bend it up so it sounds either like the note on the 8th fret, or the 9th fret, or possibly the 10th fret. So another thing you could do is just on your phone record yourself playing a note for about 10 seconds or so, kind of re-picking it every couple of seconds. Just like that, record that on a phone, and then press play, and then go to the note you want to bend from, and then try and match the sound you're hearing on your phone. So quite commonly you do bend strings with the forefinger, the little finger. So when you do, make sure you support it with the 3rd, 2nd and 1st. So practice that. So if we go back to the 10th fret, so the 4 fingers on the 10th fret now. Doesn't matter where these fingers are, they don't have to be in a fret. I mean, they can be, but if they're a little bit more crunched up, it doesn't affect that note. So anything behind the highest point is unaffected. So as I say, it's quite common to bend a string with your forefinger. So let's give that a go. So we're going to put the forefinger, the little finger on the 10th fret again. I'm going to support it. We're going to aim for the note on the 11th fret. So let's pick that first. Let's go back to the 10, bend it up slightly. Okay, so that's about right. Then practice that for a while. Then let's try and bend that 10th fret note there to sound like 12. So let's play the 12. Let's go back to 10. Okay, so when you're bending the string then, you want to keep the pressure on your fingers. If you let the pressure go as you bend up, then you'll lose the sound potentially. So I'd probably push a little bit harder than normal if you're just learning how to string bend, but over time you'll just get used to it. I'd also recommend short nails as well. So if you've got long nails and you bend up the string, then sometimes the string can catch under the nails and then it will ping as you bring the string down. So another little tip to stop any unwanted string noise or feedback is to use your right hand on the strings that you're not bending. So as I mentioned earlier, your thumb hooked over across the thicker string can help mute that one. And if you just rest the side of your hand on the strings below that, as long as it's not on the string you're bending, then it will actually help stop the strings above from feeding back. So if I'm bending on this B string here, I've got my thumb just hooked over slightly, just gently touching the thickest string. Side of my right hand is on the A, D and G strings a little bit, and then that will stop the feedback of all those strings above. If you do bend the string up and then accidentally catch it on the way down, maybe with your nail, then this hand should take care of any unwanted string noise anyway. So as I mentioned earlier, you can bend strings up or down. Now it doesn't make any difference as far as the sound goes. If I was to bend this string up or bend it down, it does have the same outcome. It just tightens the string, raises the pitch. So why would you choose to bend up over down or vice versa? Well, if you're on the thinnest string, then if you were to bend that string down, you're going to be off the guitar fretboard. So you would have to bend that string up. And vice versa, if you used to bend a note on the thicker string, if you were to bend up, you're going to be off the guitar. So you would need to bend that string down. As far as the strings in the middle, you've probably got a choice. You could go up or down. Doesn't really matter. Whatever feels most comfortable in the song. So there might be situations where you find it more comfortable to bend the string up, or there might be situations where you find it more comfortable to bend the string down. Okay, so when bending the string then, sometimes you stop the string sound in the air, so for example like this. And sometimes you want to hear the string come back down to the starting point, like this. So it all depends on the song you're playing, or what you want to achieve if you're making your own song or your own guitar solo. Now, if you want to stop the sound in the air, the way you do that is just by resting your right hand on the string, so like that. Then if you bring the string down, you won't hear it come down because the right hand is muting the strings. You can also lift off the pressure slightly off your finger, the one that you're bending the string with, and that can help too. If you want to hear the string come back down, then obviously don't mute the string with your right hand. Keep the pressure on your finger as you're bringing it back down, like that, so you can hear the string go up and then down. Now in guitar tab, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes you see an arrow just going up, and then a number in a bracket, that's the note you're aiming for. So in that case, you just bend it up, and then you would stop it in the air with the right hand, or by lifting off the pressure on your other hand. Or if you're left-handed, then it would be the opposite way around, of course. Or if you see an arrow going up and then down, then you would want to bend it up and then keep the pressure on the finger and bring the note back down, like that. Sometimes, as I say, you might see BU for bend up and BD for bend down. Okay, so give these string bends a go. Just experiment, try them on different strings. So maybe start with the highest 3 strings. You could try them on the thickest strings too. Practice bending up, practice bending them down. Just remember to aim for a note, so you don't just bend the string up randomly. Don't forget to aim for the note either 1, 2 or 3 frets higher. So play that first, go back to the note you want to bend it up or down, and try and match the sound that you're aiming for. Okay, so give string bends a go and let me know how you get on in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.